Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, July 14th, 2022, called to order at 1 p.m. And I'll go ahead and do roll call. Terry Majewski is here. Carol Griffith.
Here.
Ricky Riojas.
Here.
Joel Ireland.
Here.
And not present are Commissioners Jan Mulder and Savannah McDonald. But we do have a quorum with 4. Thank you. Item 2 is approval of the legal action report minutes for the meeting of June 29. We don't have those, do we? Are those the ones that aren't completed yet? Jody?
Sorry, I was muted. I think you're correct. Those are the ones that are not yet completed.
So no action on that item. Okay. Item 3, historic preservation zone review cases, UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0/ historic district design guidelines / revised Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines. The first case 3A is HPZ 22029 at 721 North 3rd Avenue. It's for construction of a studio / storage and carport addition. It's a full review in the West University Historic Preservation Zone. And it's a contributing resource and we're using the rehabilitation standards. Do you have background on this case, please, staff?
Normally I would have background on this case, but I'll let you know that I know that it was approved with conditions. I don't have the minutes from the meeting because the West University has not forwarded them to me. And we had a snafu with the audio, so I wasn't able to listen to audio to get the conditions, but it was approved by West University at their June meeting.
With conditions, correct?
With conditions.
So we really don't know, right?
No, to be fair, you should be evaluating it on its own merits, but it was approved.
All right.
Okay. Will you follow up with them to get those conditions, or you don't have their minutes yet, you said?
I don't have the minutes yet. I had requested them a couple of times and he was off the grid and didn't get them to me in time. So we just don't have them available. David Weinman is the owner and he's here. He might be able to shed a little bit more light on them.
Yeah, I would be happy to answer any questions that you have. I think it's fair to say that the conditions, this was the second time we went through a review with them. And so the conditions were very minor, not to do a little scroll work in the security screens. Just make sure our setbacks don't go over the property line. And honestly, that was it. There really wasn't hardly anything that they said for the conditions.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and present then, Mr. Weinman?
Oh, okay, I would be happy to. And now, do you want me to share screen and go through it? That's what's a little confusing to me, how best to do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
David, share your screen and they haven't seen your project before. So you just need to start from the beginning, share your screen and show your project.
Okay, and again, I might, this is not to share my screen.
Down at the bottom, there should be a little green icon that says share screen.
But when I hit share screen,
Then it gives you options of typically screen to share.
Say that again. It shows me some screens. Here it is, submission West University.
You just have to pick which screen has your presentation on it. There you go.
There it goes. Is
Yeah, here it
that
is.
in front of you now? Great.
Yes, we can see it. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so this is a PDF that we put together. Again, I don't know how detailed you want me to be with it. It's a multi-page thing, but the property has a The scope of the the scope of the project is small. It's just a two-car carport in the back with a little storage unit, which can become like a studio. It actually is going to be a storage unit to begin with, but we'd like to have it become a little studio at some point. So that shows what's in the document. Let me just move down through. So the general notes. Right now, there's currently just dirt space in the back. That's all that's ever been for a long time, I think. It is surrounded by a 6-foot tall stucco block. We've had the property for a little over 10 years. The building is not replacing anything. It's not changing any existing structure. It's not very high. It's at 11.4 feet. We didn't want it to be very high because that's the view to the west, even though it's also the view into the Trinity Presbyterian Church and proposed development there. We still didn't want anything very high there. So I did some comparisons in the neighborhood of different things. The thing that was that has snagged us the most is the whole question of setbacks. I didn't realize that the historic review could allow for more, honestly, historic setbacks, which are very small. So we went through numerous months with the city, with them telling us we had to go back 6 feet from the property line, but we didn't want to. And so we are proposing a 3-foot setback on the north side and a 1-foot setback on the south side. Now, this was a little bit confusing because of the overhang of the building, but the building itself is 3 foot back. Depending on how much overhang we do, we might get to within 1 foot. But we can move that. It really is not an issue, I don't think, but it is going close to the property lines. So that's what one of the biggest things that we talked about why we need that. We just need the space. We especially need parking space, and we have to park there because the city is not allowing any parking in front of the house. They put in the paid parking meters all across the front of the house. So all the parking does go into the back. And of course, with Sun and Tucson, it'd be nice to have someplace covered for a couple of the cars. I'm talking about the setbacks again. So here's just a building, some pictures of some similar structures right in our development zone area that are virtually on the property line. They're all outbuildings in the back. That will come as no surprise to any of you to know that that's how things were built. And here's we're highlighting here how we came to understand that the historic review process can allow for this without having to go through a proper variance. So we're just trying to keep it small. We're trying to keep the roof low. Surface texture will just be a stucco, not to try to look historic, but just a stucco finish, which I think will match everything else better. And again, just noting on G there that because of the long and narrow configuration of so many of these historic lots, it was very common to have some kind of outbuilding in the back of it. And then what else to highlight here?
Oh, could you go back to the windows, please? And tell us about the windows.
Yes. So the windows come up later.
Okay, okay, go ahead then.
We do talk about windows quite a little bit because that was one of the things that we talked about a lot with the other review.
Okay.
We're proposing just to put some bars on them to match what's on the main house is what's there. But you'll see more about windows coming. I don't see anything there that's too significant. So here's the plot plan with the main house here and the studio back here and the carport here. This is all grass area in through here. And so again, our buildings they're not making much of a statement really. So here's the north elevation and the south elevation. This is just a big kind of barn door out of wood. And we'll use the same kind of wood to match what we did. We did an addition on the main house 10 years ago. I went through historic review for that. And we did a number of things, I think, well. I mean, that it looks nice. And we even milled some siding to give a historic look to it with a little bead to it. And it was expensive siding, but we actually have some of it left. So we could use it on this barn door. And then the other elevations, this would be the elevation from the view from the house. And this is the elevation from the view from behind the house. And so we only have 2 windows, except for those little ones that you saw up above. And so with those windows, we're trying to, again, follow historic guidelines. We'll use some wooden clad windows, a double hung look. They'll probably be single hung windows. They might be double hung, actually.
So,
And
so they're metal wood clad windows, right?
You know, I actually haven't held one of these in my hand. But they're called wood clad. Is that what they are? They're metal with wood clad on them?
I believe that's true, wouldn't you say, Jody or Michael?
Correct.
They're metal with, they're wood with metal. Yeah, we need to know, what's the term we've been using for West University windows?
They're metal clad wood windows. So
Metal
they're,
clad wood
Okay, so
windows.
I think
Yeah.
that's what this is then.
so they're wood
know.
on the interior, and then they have aluminum metal cladding on the exterior.
So metal
Right.
clad wood windows.
Yeah.
So that might have to be noted in the motion, just so that it's not confusing when people look at this as part of the plans. No, yes,
It's not a bad idea.
yeah, okay. Go
I-
ahead.
I know we're happy. We only have 2 windows. We're happy to put any window in there that really, you know, passes.
Well, just so, did the advisory board understand that they were metal clad wood?
I know they looked them up online and they were looking at them and they said, yeah, that this looks like the right thing. But
West University has approved that type of window before.
Right, exactly. So I just want to be sure that it's correct in your write-up when you turn in your final plans, but we may have some other comments. So go ahead.
okay. And then for the door to just do a wooden door with a glass panel on it. Again, we'll have to put the security screens just because of the neighborhood, the security bars on all of those things. Let me show you some photos. So here is from outside the property looking at the wall. So this is from the new development. Parking area, used to be the church, looking across to the south. This is looking the other way. So this again is from Trinity Church parking lot looking at our property. See it, our property dips down in.
Sorry.
And here's the property from behind. It's not, you know, we say from the alley, it's not really an alley. It's owned by the church, this property. And that's the gate that you enter into. There's the gate again, so that's our gate to go in for parking. And there's the view of the main house from the proposed building site. And there again is the view of the site from within the property. And here's a little aerial view for you. Now, you know, the interesting thing is this property was subdivided at some point, and this little 2-story building is a separate strap. And so its line comes down here. So when we're building up to it. Now, for what it's worth, we also own this one. I can't ever imagine the two being not owned by the same people. They run on the same water and a number of things. This was all a Duesenberry property that we bought from them. This is one of the original warehouses for the moving company. And there's one more aerial view of the, and you see we're completely surrounded by commercial, really. The church here, the new development here, Time Market, church parking lot here, church parking lot over here. That's the plaque that we put on the front of the main house. This is what I'm told is our development zone. And here's the technical plans. Again, I can pause on this as long as you want me to.
So there are no changes on the main house, correct?
And no changes at all, no.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions on this plan before he moves ahead?
This is Carol. I just was wondering about the stucco. Are you matching the house? Or are you going to do something a little bit different to distinguish it, or?
We were advised not to try to match it by
Okay.
West University. And so we'll not try to match it. I think we'll just do a regular smooth stucco on it.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Joel? Go ahead, Ricky.
I can't find it, but what type of roofing were you guys going to put on it?
We'll just put a metal roof,
Okay.
a raised panel roof, but it won't really be visible from any angle, I don't think.
But you said that was going to have an overhang?
It'll have a slight overhang, but it's got kind of a parapet that goes around it, so that's why you don't see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Joel?
Should I move on or should I stay there?
Well,
Rick?
let's see if Joel has a question. Go ahead, Joel. You're on mute. Unmute. Yeah, Joel needs to unmute. Can you? Hello? Okay, I tell you what, just hang up, and then come back on, okay? Okay, bye. Okay, we're gonna have to pause just a second. We're gonna pause because Joel has to come back on. He froze up at 1:18.
It's weird because he doesn't look frozen up. I can see him moving and
Yeah, just leave, Joel, and come back if you can hear us. Because I can't do anything to unmute him right now. I can't.
if he can't leave, he can type in the chat box too.
Do you want to type in the chat box?
Down below at the bottom, there's a, when the screen pops up, there's a little chat thing.
Oh, he's going to write it.
Oh, no. Wonder why he can't leave and come back on. Oh, well.
I lost my screen.
Okay, I'm gonna call him back. Hold on, this is weird. Okay. I'm gonna mute you guys for just a second. Okay, are you back now? Go ahead. What are your questions? Okay, you're back at 120. Okay, go ahead.
So I lost my screen right right when David was showing us the pictures of the property from the north-south perspectives. And so I missed all of that. And that's really important for me if we could see that again.
Could you go back, Mr. Weinman?
Sure. Should I just start right at the beginning there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
right
first
there.
one?
There we are. Yeah. uh-huh.
Okay. So there's from the north looking south over the wall into our property. And I mean, you can't see into the property, but we're on the other side of that wall. And here we're on the other side of that wall. This is the elevated church parking lot that sits much higher than our property. This is from the back of the property. It's not really the alley because the church owns that property. But there's another view of the same thing, and that's the gate that we have to get into our property from. And the mesquite trees that we've actually planted. That's how well they've done in 10 years. And then this is a view from the development site at the house, the back of the main house. And then this building on the side over here is on a separate strap. And there it is again. This is the development area right in through here. And that's our new development right on the other side.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
okay. Did you have any comments or?
Yeah, I did have a couple of questions before that. I noticed on one of the elevations that in some part of the new building, you have some very narrow windows toward the roof,
Correct.
and West University had no problem with that?
They didn't. To be honest, I thought that they might, but they didn't. It's not a live or die for thing. It just gives a little bit more light into the room for us. So I really don't care if we take them out, but they would be nice for inside the room.
Okay, as long as they had no problem, they caught my eye, but if the neighbors had no trouble, I'm okay. And then
76-5800. Yeah, that's the front line, and they couldn't get her audio.
and the other issue was, do you have a picture of the bars you're talking about that are going to cover all windows in the door?
Well, yes, I think so, because we still haven't seen the main house yet. So here was a schematic, a drawing of the main house. Oh, come to think of it, we had separate pictures that we showed. Yeah, I can pull those up.
Just
I
if it's on in your presentation, we'll get it then. That's fine.
We had a couple extra pictures that we did show to West University of the house. My son actually lives in the house, and he's the one that sent the photos. I have them on my desktop, so I mean, I can pull them up for you if you'd like to see them, but they're just straight bars, but they had a little bit of swirl work through them, which I don't remember ever getting and having any comment about them. The West University said, don't put the little swirl work in it. And we were happy not to. So they were custom made bars. So we'll custom make them again and just have straight bars.
Okay, well, if we can see a picture eventually, that'd be great. Thank you. And that's the comments I had.
Okay, what else? So this was, sorry, did I just run through some stuff quickly? Here's the Arizona State Historic Property Inventory from some few years ago with Lois Dusenberry as the owner. Here is our initial historic review application. So, and these were the zoning notes that we got about the setbacks. That was a frustrating process. say.
Yeah, I have-
That's what we have.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Wyman, for staff. So Jody, why would they be giving them a hard time if we can waive the setbacks?
I can't speak to that. It may have been new staff that was unaware. We've had a fair number of new people hired on. I can get, hopefully David remembers the name of the person and I can go talk to that person that he was going back and forth with.
Yeah,
But-
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Wyman. You can
Yeah, I don't
always
know.
contact Jody if you have issues in the future with this kind of thing, or Michael Taku.
Great. No, we've learned that now, so we appreciate that.
I'm very sorry. So, okay. All right, so commissioners, do you have any questions about the setback? Because that's something that will have to be in the motion if we're all okay with waiving the setbacks. Anyone?
I'm fine with it. I think language like just waiving the setbacks, ensuring that no overhang violates the waiver. Something like that.
Why would the overhang violate the waiver? Would it, Jody?
Say that again, please.
He's worried about the overhang on the roof violating the waiver, and it's basically just where the wall is situated, correct?
It's typically where the wall is situated.
You wouldn't need to say that, Joel.
Oh, okay. I was on the impression with my bad experience with the downtown folks that they, that if your roof overhangs the setback, you violated the setback. I could be wrong about that.
Staff, do you have any comments, or that's not true?
Michael, do you have any comments on that? And Michael, you have to unmute. I always understood it to be where the wall sits, not the overhang. I know that the overhang is an issue when it comes to fire, like if there's like a close proximity to something else that you have to, you can't have like an open eave, it has to be a boxed eave, that kind of thing. So as it relates to that, but that's a good question. I mean, you can put it in there just to be.
I think that is what West University did. Again, I can't say with complete clarity. I thought it was the wall was the setback, and that's why our drawings got a little bit confusing, especially as we kept moving the walls in and out. I thought the wall had to be, that was the setback, and your overhang can't go over the property line, but the overhang obviously goes over the wall a little bit, so.
Maybe we could say something in the motion like, prove the setbacks. A clarification needed on the relationship of the roof overhang or something, and then that can be, Jody, you and Michael can work that out.
Yeah,
Planning director, right?
yeah, we can work that out.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Anyone else have comments? So I'm just thinking that we need a motion that talks about the setback waiver and the metal clad wood windows, just for clarification, and that needs to be clarified in what is submitted for the final plans. Does that make sense?
Terry,
Yes.
this is Joe. I'll make a motion in relation to HBZ 22-029, 721 North Third Avenue. I move that we approve the plans as presented, except that we have the staff do a minor review on the setback issue of whether an overhang potentially violates the setback being on the property line, and that the windows involved be metal clad wood windows.
Okay, before anyone seconds, I just want to say, I don't think we need a minor review, that staff does review of that issue.
I will accept that as an amendment, sure.
Okay. Is there a second of the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so that's Joel and Carol. Is there further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry votes aye. Joel,
Yes,
Ricky,
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Great, thank you. It passes unanimously 4-0. So Mr. Weinman, do you know the next steps or do you need Jody to review them real briefly for you here?
I would love a review because I do not know exactly what our next steps are.
Okay, go ahead, Jody.
So this recommendation and the recommendation of the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board will be forwarded to the director. You'll be issued a decision letter. The decision letter will have the decision and any conditions associated with it. From the date of that decision letter, there's a 14-day appeal period. You can appeal, the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board can appeal, PRS can appeal. If there's an appeal, it has to be submitted within a 14-day timeframe to the city clerk's office, and there is a fee associated with that appeal. If there's an appeal, then it will be forwarded to mayor and council for a decision. They will either uphold the appeal or not. If there is no appeals, and we don't get that many appeals, just FYI, I've only had one in the 4 years that I've been here. But if you do not get an appeal, it'll just go, once the appeal period is over, then you can submit your plans that are revised per the conditions and finish out your permitting process.
All right, so it means virtually a new submittal though, is that correct?
Well, right now, so when you initially submitted your comments, one of your comments was, your project was getting rejected because you needed the historic review. So you're basically resubmitting with the conditions noted on your elevations and your site plan, with the decision letter and with a response letter to these comments from the initial zoning review that says, I did my historic review, here's the decision letter. This is how we address the setback issue because it was approved by the decision letter, et cetera, et cetera.
So we include your decision letter. It doesn't go directly to planning.
Yes, it doesn't directly go to development services.
Okay, all right.
You include it just like you're including your revised plans. It's a full packet. You don't want to piecemeal stuff. You want everything to go as a full packet.
Okay,
So
all right, so
basically, yeah, so you'd wait for the letter to come, correct, Jody? You would wait for that?
Wait for the letter. You'll wait for the decision letter to come, which will have the conditions listed. And you will wait for that 14-day appeal period to be done before you submit anything.
okay, so we're basically probably waiting almost a month. Correct?
Would
Or the
say
letter
so.
might come soon?
The letter comes as soon as we can get it out.
Okay, all right. It's just my builder, just to give him a sense of when he can actually start building. It doesn't sound like it would be in the next month.
Yeah, I mean, we try to get them out as soon as we can. And then, like I said, you're still having to finish the rest of the zoning or the permitting process. So structural, mechanical, electrical, they look at all that stuff too still.
Yeah, well, that has already passed for what it's worth, but okay, no, this is helpful. But one other, if I can ask one more, I think we have confused because our builders presented stuff and then he's an old friend who's built 50 years in Tucson, but does not do computer stuff at all well. And so he was just having so much problems with the city and then with his historic. So then I took it over, but then my son has been involved. So I'm not sure what email address you're going to send the letter to. My preference would be to me, but it usually finds its way to me, even if it goes through various.
I sent this meeting connection information to you.
I had actually went to our builder, then he passed it on to my son, who then passed it on to me.
David, if you can email me afterwards, the meeting,
Okay.
and I will have that on record and I'll send it to you, the decision letter.
Great. Thank you very much.
Do you have
Mhm.
Jody's email? You do?
I do, because we have corresponded directly before.
Just let her know which email to use and she will work with you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Again, yes, it's been a little frustrating, but I'm just happy we're moving ahead and I appreciate what you do. So,
Thanks very much. Take care. Good luck with your project.
all right, thank you much. So I will close out then.
Okay,
Correct.
sounds good. Uh-huh.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let's move on to item 4, which is a Rio Nuevo Area RNA Infill Incentive District IID review case. It's reviewed under UDC section 5.12.6.E.2, 5.12.7, and 5.12.10. Case 4A is HPZ 22059, IID 2901 at 733 South Stone. This is for construction of an outdoor dining area with a shade structure, outdoor bar, new windows, modification of window openings, relocation of the ugly but honest sign, fencing and trellis. This is a full review in the Armory Park Historic Preservation Zone. It's a contributing resource and we're using the rehabilitation standards. Staff, could we have background on this case, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, this was reviewed by Armory Park on Tuesday, June 21st, and I was in that meeting with my colleague Maria, because this is mainly an IID project. I am going to leave that introduction to Maria to carry on that.
Okay, great. Maria,
Good
go ahead.
afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, Ms. Majeski, members of the PRS. Yes, indeed, this is a proposed change of use from the former gas station, the Agli Baronest, to a pizzeria. So, the applicant is, like you mentioned, Ms. Majeski, is proposing to revitalize the existing structure and the awning that exists on site. And these structures are contributors, right, to the Armory Park National Historic District. Also, in addition to being in the local historic zone designation. And so they're also going to be adding this 10-foot high steel shade canopy, which will be used for outdoor dining. They're, in order to comply with the IID, they're also providing parking on the street, across from 6th Avenue. The Agli Baronest historic sign is being relocated about 22 feet to the north from its current location. But also they're proposing to relocate the existing Cesar Chavez sculpture. So as required per the UDC, the design professional reviewed this proposal in 2 occasions, and he's now recommending approval of the project. The Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board reviewed this project back on June 21st, and they have recommended approval with 3 conditions. One of the conditions that I have here on my notes is that the square wave corrugated metal to be replaced by S-wave corrugated metal elements to be compatible with the historic existing corrugated metals within the HB zone, Armory Park neighborhood. The second condition was to reduce the height of the new proposed shade structure from 10 feet to 9 feet 6 inches to increase the visibility of the original historic structure and canopy. And the third condition was for the Agli Baronest historic sign to be relocated as presented by the applicant only if a SHPO determines that, the historic structure on site will not lose its contributing status. So now, as part of the process, they need to come through the PRS for full review. And if there's any questions from me, I'm able to answer them. I'll try. And I think we have the applicant also here for a presentation.
Maria, this is Terry. I'm sorry to ask you this, but briefly tell me what condition 3 was. My phone rang and I had to stop it from ringing.
The condition 3 was to allow for that ugly baroness historic sign to be relocated at the same orientation, about 22 feet to the north from its current location as shown on the plans. Only if SHPO determines that the historic structure will not lose its contributing status.
So it's dependent upon that, correct?
That was a condition. I'm gonna ask the Historic Preservation Officer, Jody, here to confirm that, if that's indeed something that SHPO has made a determination already or not, but that was part of the conditions from the Historic Advisory Board.
So basically, if the move of the sign can affects the eligibility status of the building, is that what it is, Joni?
On the site.
No, it's not the eligibility of the building, it's the eligibility of the sign
Okay.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah, and it came up, John Burr had emailed because he recalled that previously when they were doing the work, the beautification work over at 5 Points, that it went through the section 106 review. And at the time, SHPO said that the sign could not be moved. I asked SHPO about it, and they weren't able to locate that information. They had no documentation that anybody ever said that. I asked Catherine specifically, I sent her the plans and said, is this an issue to relocate the sign back? She did not think it was an issue. She thought it could still maintain its contributing, be maintained as a contributing element, even in its new location, since it was being relocated on the parcel. So it didn't seem like a big issue. It would just be a matter of completing a new amendment to the inventory form, an addendum to the inventory form, and submitting that for their review. But she
And
did
who would-
not seem.
Yeah, who would do that?
I would do that. I
Okay.
did it for the houses along Broadway that were relocated back. I would do it for this sign.
Right. Okay, sounds good. All righty. Thank you for that clarification. So Maria, if that's all, do we want the presenter to go through the project?
Yes, please, Ms. Majeski.
And who will be doing that? Is that Mr. Schambach?
That's me, Mr. Schambach, or Dave. And I also have the restaurateur, the owner of Ugly Bananas Pizza, Nick
Hi.
Headings.
Nick Headings, hi.
What was that name again? I'm sorry.
Nicholas Headings.
Headings, Headings,
Double D.
Heddings. Okay.
That's correct. You got it.
Owner of pizza place, so whatever
You
it
got
is. All right, go ahead.
All right. All that. Make it as big as I can. Hang on just 1 second. There we go. All right, greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for your volunteer work associated with this. So I'm happy to present to you the Ugly But Honest Pizzeria and Beer Garden proposal and concept. This is something that's been a long time in the making. The parcel itself has been neglected for going on decades now. And I think the neighborhood and the owner of the restaurant and the developer are very excited that this particular use is potentially going to be working out of this location. So I'm going to have Nick briefly to sort of describe his vision for the operation, restaurant, food concept, and basic ambiance of the space. He has a great vision, and I'd like for you to hear it from his own words.
Howdy. Well, first of all, I'd like to say I own some pizzerias in town as well already. I own Arizona Pizza Company out in Sabino Canyon and Upper Crust Pizza on Grant Campbell. So I'm pretty excited about this space and being down in that area. I've been like Dave said, it's been a long time coming. I've been trying to find the perfect spot, and I do believe I have found that location. So I'm real excited about having some outdoor space because I have not had any outdoor space in my previous restaurants. So very excited about that, and excited to be involved in sort of the historic area and enjoying that whole community downtown. So yeah, we'll do a lot of, as you can see here on the picture, a lot of outdoor dining. The building is very small, so it'll be all outdoor and to go type stuff, walking food, if you will. So we'll do a lot of pizza by the slice. If you know Upper Crust or Arizona Pizza Company, that's kind of the main thing that we do is pizza by the slice. So it'll be kind of the same concept, small dishes, and just nice place to hang out. Very excited to make what you see on the screen come to life. So that's it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to add is one of the things that have been really important to Nick in the course of this is to create taking the opportunity to create a small urban oasis associated with his beer garden and pizzeria. So there's some unique aspects to the site that's really sort of contributed to that concept. And as you can see, the initial design and views are quite stunning, and this is a pretty good representation of what's going to happen at night, including guitar players on the sidewalks. Okay, it's so fascinating. I always love sharing the history. I mean, not Jody's probably getting tired, Maria is getting tired of hearing it, but it is a really fascinating history, and just sort of giving you just a review. I mean, I encourage you to go ahead and get into the details of this graphic, but basically we understand that the gas station was a prefabricated gas station that was sold by one of the major oil companies as a sort of franchise type of building that you could buy as a kit made out of metal and installed very quickly into create a gas station. So the initial, what we're understanding, the initial construction probably happened somewhere around the 1930s. The Wasleys have been part of this area location. Wasley Mortars across the street. Ugly But Honest is a spinoff of that. So there's all these interconnected family relationships and chain of ownership that are fascinating as well. As you can see, the sign appears to, again, this is all sort of, based on some basic research my people did. They understand the Wasley auto sign or Ugly But Honest sign. It probably we're not sure when it turned into Ugly But Honest, but it appears to be installed someplace in the 50s. Ownership changed when Tom, as a teenager, started working. I actually started working for Wasley. The sign actually has a little bit of notoriety. It's been used in some movie sets. It's been part of some some album covers. So I think sort of the uniqueness of associated with this is attracted people throughout the years. So sometime in the 80s, Clyde Wansley passes away, and Tom Everson and his wife take over the business. As you can see, the movie album cover, Tom passes. At that point, the family is entrusted not just this property, but some additional properties associated with the Baffert at 5 Points to Larry Kapler, who's been working diligently to transform this corner into a productive and connected part of the community. So that's been happening for probably the last 5 years, 6 years at the most. During the late early 2010s, the building basically became vacant, and it really hasn't been used since 2010 for much of anything other than storage and raising pigeons. So Larry's been working diligently to stabilize the building and get it to a point where he could find a user such as Nick to infuse new life into the property and have it move into the future. During the course of us working on this project, a lot of infrastructure was put up, including the Arch Gateway projects and the Cesar Chavez statues. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to contribute to the neighborhood with our property, our development. Okay, so some historic photos that are just really interesting to look at. This is probably one of the earliest photos that we've found of the original building without the awning, and the sign was not there, of course, but the Alamo apartments were still there. Okay, so existing conditions and design precedents. So we're basically showing an aerial that shows our development zone associated with this project. Some of you may or may not know that the point, which we're calling the point, which contained the Wasley or the Ugly But Honest gas station, was not part of the historic zone and was traded basically with the Baffert at 5 Points for inclusion into the historic zone in a methodology of allowing the Baffert to be constructed in a way that it was realistic. And now the Wasley, the Ugly But Honest, is now part of the HDZ. So the existing conditions around the site, the west elevations, you get a sense of how it connects to the Alamo. The north elevation, basically boarded up. The last vestiges of the signage that was included. East elevation, same thing. One of the things we wanted to share with you is actually the clutter that's been associated with some of the things that are happening, the Ugly But Honest sign and the unfortunate orientation or between those two things. So we're actually hoping the moving this sign actually helps alleviate that unfortunate coincidence. And then the basic intersection at 5 Points. So design precedences, we're just basically showing some of the elements that we're seeing, throughout the neighborhood. We actually have a fairly small development zone overlay. We probably could have expanded it, but I really didn't feel like we needed to justify some of the design precedences that we were looking at. But a lot of metal picket fences, vegetation, older signage, older buildings, various things. There's since there is a few commercial enterprises, things that are happening with that. Steel shade structure, metal sash windows, which we were replacing or reinstalling in the ugly but honest building. There's some tensile structures that are associated with it. We do have sort of a design idea for that. Bike corrals, vegetation, a lot of, and a lot of, a lot of nice, nicely positioned landscaping. Okay, our proposed design. So I just wanted to share a little bit of what we've seen other people do in transforming gas stations. They actually are really, they have a lot, particularly for restaurants, they have a lot of opportunities associated with them. So you can sort of see that Press the coffee roasters that are over by Tucson High, the very strange building off of 648 North Stone, which has been offices, PJ Subs off of 6th Street, Sparkle Cleaners, Gray's Burgers, and then ATL Wings. So all of these are, in my opinion, shows sort of like the successful transformation and adaptive reuse of a gas station to something other than what its original intent. This is our selection of materials. One of the things that it's really important for us is to maintain the sort of like the aesthetic graphic feel associated with the current status of the building. So it'll maintain its primarily white color. We're planning on using the sort of the standard red, blue, and black that we've seen over the course of the years, and sort of, basically what working with what we have now. The metal sash windows, again, something that are pretty standard for this kind of building, and something that we're reinstalling as part of our design. Steel shade structure. So because we were doing a steel shade structure, at this point we're planning on allowing it to be sort of having a rusted color as a backdrop for different vines and planting materials. So the framework for that is going to be basically raw steel. Some examples of the steel fencing. We'll have some small steel planters that are incorporated into some of the landscape areas. Just to give you an idea of one of the ideas that we have for the project itself is that we really want to have some rain protection associated with the awning, and also have it help direct rainwater into the micro basins along the perimeter edge of the sidewalks. So we're using this corrugated polycarbonate with an S profile, which is one of the things, one of the conditions, to help divert the water, help create a waterproof roof system, but also allow a certain amount of translucence. It would be an opaque version of that, and in addition, just to create a little bit of nicer lighting conditions during probably the winter months. During the summer months, we've got a design where we're planning on using these tensile structures underneath to create like the sort of the essence of shade structures, almost like a interpretation of tree canopies underneath. These canopies would be removable because we figured during the winter months that the translucent qualities of the polycarbonate could be helpful during the winter. And right now we've got some mechanical and equipment yard screens as shown here that we're using some different materials that have a little bit more of a squared linear feel. Probably talk a little bit about that in a bit. Concrete bar tops, concrete pavers, decomposed granite, natural native vegetation, and then this is a great example of a juxtaposition of sidewalk to landscape buffers. We do have Jeff Rowdy, who's a really fine drylands land planning designer, is working with us. He's already selected a varietal of vines and grasses, shrubs, and a few trees to create some shade, some layers, some buffering, and just some general streetscape beauty associated with the project. Okay, so as been discussed, as discussed, this is a great sort of shot of really what's happening in that intersection. A lot of things are happening right here. And one of the things that we thought that we could contribute to sort of like the streetscape, and again, just sort of like declutter some of this, is basically move the sign approximately 20 feet to the north and incorporate that into our shade structure in a way that is responsible, allowing the sign to act as its own, but still celebrate it in such a way that it's still an important feature on the site. So you can sort of see some of the different views of the sign. Here's again the current condition, and this is a graphic showing the approximate relocation strategy associated with that. Again, okay, so as you may or may not have noticed, right now there's no room for parking associated with this use. So we've been coordinating with Mark Castro and Maria on what we can do, where we are going to be adding a handicap design configuration right here along this section of stone. And then we were graced a few reduction in parking spaces. And then we're planning on leasing parking from across the street at the Wasley lot. So that's why right now there is absolutely no parking on this site. Here's the main building. Here's the existing awning that will have a bar constructed around it. We have a little the main sort of little rain garden associated with that. And then we have perimeter edge planters that will be using grasses, shrubs, and Mark Rowdy is going to be planting materials that have different colors, and pretty much year round we'll have something that's doing something special associated with that. Here's the new sign location, which we've basically placed it within the area of our metal awning. We've created a big hole for it to sort of come through without anything else touching it. And then you can sort of see the sails that we have placed below the steel awning that is right in this right here. So the main entry for the restaurant is right here, and which is where you saw that little entry portico. There's a small dining room in this area, and then the restaurant is right through here. Then we have seating all throughout here, and then seating throughout the awning area. Just an idea of what, just to see just how tiny this building is. I mean, there's a small dining area right here. There will be bathrooms associated with the restaurant and the outdoor use. The kitchen area, an indoor outdoor serving area, refrigerators, and then all the basics associated with that. So this is the south elevation. We're going to take the same graphic and we're planning on changing some of the wording in such a way that basically we're replacing some of the ugly but honest graphics associated with that with the wares of the restaurant. So this is the east elevation. You can see here that we actually have dropped down. We have reduced the height of the awning or the shade structure per the Armory Park Advisory group's recommendations. We are also requested to show any some kind of mechanical screen, because we are anticipating that we'll have some mechanical equipment on the roof of this. So they wanted to make sure that we are noting that we are screening any rooftop equipment. We're actually going to try to limit that to as much as we can, and we'll make it as small as possible in the course of doing this. So again, a simple picket fence, steel. You can sort of see the shade structures coming down, the entry portal, the steel sash windows associated with the new glass. Then the west elevation, basically inverse of the east. We do have a little equipment yard that we're going to be putting in APCs. We've actually coordinated trash court calculations with the environmental people, and we're in alignment of what we need to do and how many trash receptacles we need to enclose. Just some views that are put in perspective, just sort of just a helpful for you. So you can get a sense of the overall design and development. So this is from the west towards the south. Coming in from the north. And again, this is the 6th Avenue, which is considered the main entry point for the structure. A little bit of a close-up. You can sort of see that we'll be using some graphics associated with the ugly but honest as a part of Nick's marketing brand. And again, the beer garden and pizzeria. What you're not seeing is probably the layers of vegetation that are going to be on both sides of the sidewalk. We are planning trees, and some trees have already been planted along the street side, and then along the restaurant side, we'll be using climbing vines, shrubs, and grasses to create a layering effect and sort of create this intimate oasis. This is sort of what it looks like from the inside. And again, you know, the shade canopies will be removable, but they've got a good sense of or a good rhythm and pattern associated with creating a lot of shade within the shade structure area. And then the translucent panels will allow a little bit more light through. But we think that pattern actually will help it seem a little bit more lively and not so dark during certain times of the day. Parking and trash discussion. It's some of the issues that we've been having to deal with. So we did an overall parking evaluation. We just heard that we do not need an individual parking plan, but because of the association of the infill incentive district, the reductions we're putting for additional bike parking, and the fact that the owner of this property, who's the same owner of the Point, will be leasing parking spaces back to the Ugly But Honest as well as the Baffert to allow both these uses to have additional parking resources throughout the years. And again, you can see there's also quite a bit of available street parking most times of the day. I've never been down there when I've seen the street parking completely utilized. Again, this is just associated just to show the relationship and to show the parking layout that we're planning on using to maximize the parking for the existing Wasley lot as a restriping project, and how we're going to manage that during the course of basically finalizing this whole corner in a way that it's going to be just terrific. Closer view. Okay, and in the course of dealing with the realities of trash, Nick actually provided us what he felt was a realistic approach to how much trash generation he would be doing for different things. One, he's got the customer created trash, food preparation trash, and then basically recycling. And so Nick did this as an additional bit of information so we could work with Andy Vera in coming to consensus of like how many of these basically APCs that we would need to have a reasonable chance to service the building. And just as a sort of an additional bit of safety beyond the APCs, the restaurant and Nick and his team will be allowed to use a dumpster enclosure and all the receptacles associated with this lot as a similar situation as he's getting access to parking along here. So there's always going to be a place for them for any overflow, but the calculation we did right now and the coordination we did with Andy Vera, he's satisfied and we're satisfied that there's going to be 99.9% of the time that they'll never have any kind of issue associated with trash. Okay, and again, back to the vision and back to what we're hoping that we're going to be allowed to construct. We're ready for comments and questions and any kind of additional assistance or ideas that you feel that will be needed. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Dave. So I just want to clarify something. You've already on these plans addressed Armory Park's conditions, correct? By showing the corrugated metal that they wish, reducing the height, and moving the sign, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And the mechanical screen, which I don't know if it was an official condition during the course of that, but I know that Maria, who is one of the hardest working people I know, was listening to the recording and said that she recalled that she heard that being said. So we added that to for the equipment screen, just to show that we are going to hide any equipment that ends up on them.
Yes, Ms. Majewski, members of the PRS, Mr. John Burr mentioned at the advisory board meeting the need for screening of mechanical equipment, and he requested the applicant to show that at the IDDRC meeting, but it was not part of the motion. So the applicant is just being very diligent and informing you and providing the revised drawings with that screening of the mechanical equipment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who would like to begin with questions? Ricky, what about you?
I thought there was mention of a statue being moved. Is it just the sign that's being moved?
Well, the mention, there has been mention of the statue being moved, but that has nothing to do with us or that project. I think there's been some, once it was positioned, I think there was some recognition that there was an unfortunate coincidence associated with the sign and the statue. So the city and I think the neighborhood have been under sort of thinking about it, and I think they may be. The rumor is that, and I'm just, I hate spreading rumors, is that they may be moving it into the park, but I'm not sure.
But
So-
regardless of whether they decide to move it or not, that's not going to affect these plans at all.
No, we're not showing it being moved because it's not part of our responsibility, or is it anything that we, it really is, even though part of the sign actually does sit on the property, on the very tip, it really is not it's not our sign, our statute of move.
Okay, perfect. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. Let's go with Carol.
I had the same question as Ricky, and that's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, Joel. You're on mute.
Yeah, I had a couple things. Let me grab my notes here. First, let me ask about the parking spaces. You showed some parking that apparently is going to be leased to the pizza place. Can you go over that again? Who is leasing what parking to whom?
Okay, Larry Kapler, and let me get back to an exhibit. Okay, here's the one. So Larry Kapler has and basically is maintaining control of all three of these lots. So basically, he's the developer for the Baffert of 5 Points. He currently owns the Wansley lot, and he's currently got control. It's got the master stakeholder for the point. So Nick he's a tenant. Larry is the property owner, developer, and basically, since he owns both these properties, he has the authority to allow, I'll be honest, access to park on this lot.
Well, but Larry Kapler does not own the Ugly But Honest portion.
That's why I said he's a master leaseholder.
I got you. Okay.
Because the property actually is impossible to sell. I don't know if you guys know the background of this. Because of the monitoring wells and associated during the phase 2 property, it can't really change possession right now. And so as far as I understand, so Larry's got a master, he is in essence owns the property because he's got a really long lease, and he is the master leaseholder.
Mr. Ireland, members of the PRS, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, that property with the new parking area will need to go through a separate development package review process. And I was triple checking with zoning review staff, and they will be requiring the applicant to provide a parking agreement allowing the Ugly Barones Pizza use of those 13 parking spaces from that lot. So that will need to be secure. So in the future, if it happens that, that parking area is sold, the new property owner will need to make sure that 13 parking spaces are provided for that Ugly Barones Pizza property.
Thank you. I guess that was my concern, because when you're talking about renting something, it can always not be rented later. And so that satisfies my concern there. Thank you.
Okay, so as I've noted, Armory Park's conditions have been met. If there are no other questions, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
in the matter of HPZ 22-059 IID 733 South Stone. We would recommend approval as presented on this date with the conditions met by the local review board, and that the sign relocation would be approved pending the SHPO's comments regarding it's not losing its National Register eligibility with the move.
Okay, great. Is there a second?
This is Ricky. I'll second.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry Majewski votes aye. Ricky,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Joel.
Yes.
Great, thank you. The motion passes unanimously 4-0. Great, thank you. Do you need anything else? Do you have any other questions at this time, Dave?
I always have lots of questions, but I'm working with staff very well. And I know we have a few more steps. We have the design review committee meeting tomorrow, and then we're going to have to circle back around with our IID package and get that all in alignment with everything that's been said and agreed to. And I think we're in good shape, unless Maria.
Yeah, I was Ms. Majewski, members of the PRS. Just to help, this project move forward and considering availability by IID DRC members. The IID DRC meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'll be consulting with Jody and Michael about the legal action report from this meeting from the PRS.
Yeah, well, there's no way that the legal action report can be done by tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what, do you just need the motion on this or what?
Yeah, just basically the language of the motion. I took notes, but it's always.
Okay,
nice
why
to-
don't I do that? Jody and Michael, if that works for you, I will transcribe that motion tonight and send it to you by the morning. Does that work?
That should
That'll work. Thank you.
Okay, and what I'll do is, Carol, I'm going to copy you, so if you could look and see if I wordsmithed it correctly.
That's fine. It'll be fine, Terry. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for a nice presentation. Very
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very
thorough
much.
project. Thank you.
I'm tasting the pizza already.
Yeah, great. Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. I was just going to ask, do we know who Ashley Smith is? So I could put it in my notes.
Ashley Smith is an intern at the PTSD.
Okay, great. Hello, Ashley. Sorry about that. I like to know from my notes.
Yeah, all good.
All righty. So item 5 is the task force on inclusivity report recommendations. Item 5A is discussion on best practices for naming of city and county owned physical assets discussion. I don't have anything to update you on at this time. Okay, so then item 6, I'm sorry, current issues for information discussion. 6A is minor reviews. Staff, can you update us, please?
Madam Chair, since our last meeting, we have actually not done any minor review per se. I'm just working on having some of them that I may be able to do them inside next week. And I will be sending out an email to request for availability for those.
Okay. Item 6B is appeals.
We do not have any appeal pending at this point in time, Madam Chair.
Okay, item 6C is zoning violations.
As usual, we continue to work on violation cases as they come due to us, and those that require them to go through the full review process. We normally take them through the process, and you see some of them. But currently, we have many of them out there, but they're not yet ready to get to your level. We try to first problem solve if we can. So that's what we are doing at this point in time.
Great. Item 6D is review process issues. I'd like to just start out by saying, is there absolutely any way that all these major IID reviews don't bump up against the next day is the DRB? Is there any way we can do that? Change that?
We don't typically, we're not the ones scheduling that. I can talk to Maria about it.
No, but could we hear the case earlier? I mean, I think it's really inconsiderate.
It's not a matter of I don't know why she's getting scheduled directly after. She literally, I'll schedule a project for us for PRS. And then she works to schedule directly. Once she knows our date, then she schedules the date for the DRC or DRB. I'm not sure why she does it directly after like that. I can talk to her about it.
Please do, because I think it's not, I mean, even if it weren't me working on the LAR, could you be, it's 2:30. I mean, would you be expected to have the LAR done by tomorrow?
No, not by any means, but we also are in attendance here and we're in attendance there. And she's there, I'm there. So there's multiple people that have attended both meetings.
Right. So I'll send you that. If you can send me the recording, I will listen to it. And, it's not, we only had 2 cases, so it shouldn't be too hard, right?
And I'll talk to her about it too.
It just a little more time might be useful. So anyone else have a review process issue? Joel, Ricky, Carol, nothing?
I don't have any.
Okay. Yeah, and I do hope that you can find out what happened with that poor man, the first case, where he was told something completely different about his setbacks.
Yeah, I'll look into that and see if hopefully he remembers who he talked to, so I can talk to that person.
Yeah, wouldn't it be like a record or something in that, somewhere in the case file? Not necessarily.
Potentially, but it depends on who's keeping that record. It may
Right,
just
yeah,
be
no.
talk to staff, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Item 7 is summary of public comments. Were any received by the deadline?
We did not receive any.
Okay. Item 8 is future agenda items. The next meeting is July 28th. And commissioners who are on, are you all available on that date? On the 28th?
I am.
I am.
Joel?
Yes.
Okay, you'll be available. Okay, and I would just ask that and Jody also follows up, and then I follow up. So it would be so helpful if you'd follow up, you'd respond to Jody's message and copy me. Otherwise, I don't have to track you down that as much. But it would be great if we could all work a little bit harder on that. We don't know about Savannah and Jan, but hopefully with 4, we do have a quorum. But what does the 28th look like, Jody?
I don't think Jan is going to be present. She's already mentioned that she wouldn't be here for this one or for the next one because they're out and about.
Okay, well, I'll double check. Sometimes she was emailing with me today. And she joins if she can get a signal. So, okay. But do we have a lot of cases for that day scheduled, or do you know yet?
I don't know yet.
Okay, you'll let us know. So, okay, well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:29. And do you think you'll be able to get me the recording, and I will look at it and get that other one done for you?
Yeah, now that I'm
Doesn't
recording
take
to
out
the
like that. It'll
cloud,
take like a 10 minutes or so.
now that I'm recording to the cloud instead of my computer, I don't have to like compress the size of the file, so it comes pretty quick.
Great, I really appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.